The VIP method, an expanded view, today on the Daily Ish Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Daily Ish Show. It is a show that has been a little delayed, more than daily lately. Last week was really busy, which is typical for the month of July and into August is just the rental business is a busy time, and that's a good thing. So hopefully you guys didn't miss me too much last week, but it's good to be back. This is the Daily Ish Show, a show not just for rental housing providers, but anybody that is looking to get more time wealth, more freedom, and more white space on your calendar. Welcome. My name is Mark Dolfini, your host, landlord coach. It's really good to see you. So today I was reminded as I was a guest on another person's podcast, which was fantastic. They did just a really, really great job. It was really cool to see what it was that, in terms of their audience and what it is that they are doing. And I was reminded that the VIP method is not necessarily something that people have known about really. And I think it's worth going over in an expanded view a little bit. You've heard me talk about the VIP method, the vision infrastructure process method, which works across many different businesses. It works more than just the rental housing operator business. So if you have a small business, it might be worth your while to pay attention and plug in for the next 10 minutes or so. Because as we were going through the VIP method, people were, if you're familiar with what's called the BRRRR method. Now, the BRRRR method in the real estate space is really, it's a great way to accumulate rental properties. So it's buy, renovate, rehab, buy. I always do this wrong. So it's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat, right? I might be missing an R in there. But the point is that you're buying this property, you're fixing it up, you're getting it rented, you're refinancing the property, and then you're repeating that same cycle. Now it's a great cycle, and it's a great process for building a rental portfolio. It really truly is. But it falls very short of actually building that portfolio out as a business, right? So if you are in business, or if you want to get in business for yourself, this is something you're going to want to listen to. This is going to be something you're going to want to plug into, because I use the VIP method all the time for every business, no matter if I'm starting a new business or if I'm restructuring an existing one, or if I'm coaching a client, I go back to the same thing. So this is going to be really, really important for you to listen to. So the VIP method, first of all, it's vision, infrastructure, and process. It's what I wrote about in the Time Wealthy Investor 2.0. And the interesting thing is I've had people who are in vastly different businesses who have zero interest in the real estate space reach out to me because they're like, I love the VIP method and everything it's about because it helped me in my marketing business. It helped me with my fitness business. It helped me in whatever business. Now, if you have a business that is especially a service-based business, it's going to work for you. So let's get a little bit deeper in terms of what that is. So first of all, how did I come up with the VIP method? Well, I'd love to say that it was, that it was handed, to me down on a stone tablet as I walked up, at something like that. But it was far less impressive, because really I came up with it as I was crawling out, quite literally, of a hospital bed, because I had double pneumonia, and I had no choice but to sit there and do a real hard self-evaluation with what was going on in my life at the time. And the reason I got in that hospital bed is because I quite literally almost worked myself to death. So as I'm sitting there thinking about all the things that were wrong in my life, and I had double pneumonia, and I was basically, there was nothing I could do. I mean, my business was running like crazy. I had all these people that were calling me, saying to me, when are you going to come over and fix my stuff? When are you going to pay this bill? When are you going to, all this stuff, all these demands are being placed on me, which is right flat where it landed me in that bed at that moment in time. I was flat broke, and I had no ability to do anything at that moment in time. I was just, if I did, I would have probably died, quite literally. So I got a real hard look at what was going on in my life in terms of the self-evaluation stuff, in terms of what was wrong, like what was wrong, not just in my business, but my life and all these different things. Well, first and foremost, I realized that everything was up in here. Everything that I was doing was in my head. And really, I was so reaction based that I really didn't have time to mess with anything that was really what it was that I was needing to do. So it was all processes, but it was really more putting out the hottest fire that was burning at the time, and whoever was yelling the loudest. So when I recognized, okay, so I really had a big process problem. All the processes had to run through me. I was the gatekeeper for all the information to flow through. That was a huge problem because there was no way that I had enough time in the day to process all the information that was coming at me and all these different things. The next thing that I recognized that is, even if I had help, like help wasn't going to help me much if I just walked them into a room and yelled, do work, and then run away, right? Like all the processes were in my head. So even if I was able to get the processes down on paper, I didn't have any sort of infrastructure to run the processes on. I mean, I had a phone that looked like this. That was my phone system, right? That I had no computers, I had no desks, no chairs, I had no Dropbox, I had no office. My office was rolling around in my truck trying to get everything done, printing leases from the back seat. No kidding. So the infrastructure piece was another critical piece of what I had to put in place. So I had to get the processes, I had to get the infrastructure. Finally, this was probably the toughest part to come up with, was what was I doing this all for in the first place? What was the point? Why was I bothering to do this thing? I mean, I'm not a complete and total idiot, even though I felt like I was at the time, but I could probably do most things pretty well if I focused on that one thing and that one thing only. So what was the purpose of getting out of bed? Why was I doing this thing? Why did it have to be rental properties? So really what I lacked was just a clear direction for what it was I was trying to accomplish. So that's how I came up with vision, right? So looking at it in that aspect, it was, what's the vision? What's the purpose that I was doing this all for in the first place? Then with a clear answer to that, I was able to set up an infrastructure and processes that were all in alignment with that vision. So with that in mind, then I was able to start putting processes and procedures and infrastructure and phone systems and property management software systems and things like that that would now allow me to operate much more effectively and efficiently that was all in alignment with my vision for the future. So if we're going to go on this slightly more expanded look at this, vision is almost always what everybody struggles with, even though a lot of times I'll get people who come to me, they want coaching, and then I start poking at their vision a little bit and to test it. And it's difficult because it will evolve over time, right? So think about the context, and we'll put this into some context. When you were a toddler, you could crawl over arm, right? And your vision, probably what was the most important for you at the time, was to be able to learn how to stand and walk, right? That's your closely held vision. If you think of a vision, it's like a V. So the closely held vision for you is to get up and walk, right? And then further down, you wanted to learn how to run. And then further down from that, you maybe wanted to learn how to bike because you saw the big kids doing it, right? So, as that vision expanded, you wanted to do other things. But right now, you just wanted to be able to stand and walk. So as you're, crawling over arm, that next piece of your vision is to, stand and walk, right? So that's how that works. And it's not any different for you and I as business professionals. You may have a long distant vision to have a Ferrari, okay? But you're not willing to not spend time with your children at the expense of that Ferrari. Makes total sense. If you do, you're a sociopath, you can go ahead and click off. But obviously, most people who are not sociopaths would rightly so put their children in front of a Ferrari. So, not directly, but in order of priority. But what I'm saying is that is really, really important when you're thinking about, okay, well, hey, let me think about this for a second. How do I want to organize and prioritize my vision? So when you're doing that, now you can start to say, well, okay, what's the next piece of the vision that I want to clear? What's the next hurdle? What's the big rock that I'm trying to break into small pieces? So then when you start thinking about your infrastructure and process, now you can start to break them down into 4 key areas. Now, this is not in the book, but the 4 key areas, the 4 processes that every business has to have. Now, you've probably heard me say this before, but this is why it's so incredibly important. And this is how it relates to the infrastructure and process portions. So the infrastructure and process is broken down into 4 key areas. And that is your lead generation. How do people know that you're in business? That's really, really important for people to know who you are and what you're doing. Because just because you build it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to come. People have to know that you're in business, and they have to know what it is that you do. And I would almost say, what is it that you don't do, right? There's a reason why you're never going to go to Starbucks and get a cheeseburger, because they don't do that. And they're almost obnoxious about what they won't do. Nothing wrong with that. It's really good to know what your avatar is, but most important, what your avatar is not. Because you can have a conversation with that one person. Trying to have a conversation with everybody is really tough. But having a conversation with one avatar, one client base, is a lot easier than trying to have one with multiple. So knowing who you are, knowing who you want to work with, that's an important part of lead generation. The next piece is sales. The sales piece does not necessarily take care of itself. You have to have, once the leads come in, they need to be converted to actual buyers. What's the sales process? What's the closing process? What's the follow-up? What's the follow-through? Right? That's an important piece. Once you get the leads in, you actually close the sale. And it is not the same thing. Sales and marketing are not the same thing. Although they are related, definitely important. They have to work together, but they are not the same thing. The third critical process is your operational function. This is the fulfillment piece. This is what the business does. Starbucks makes coffee. McDonald's makes cheeseburgers, right? Whatever the business is. If you're in the business of renting properties, great. If you're an attorney that practices a certain type of law, great. That's your fulfillment. If you're a roofer that puts on metal roofs, great. That's your fulfillment. So whatever the operational function is, that is really clear to delineate what specifically you will do, and again, what specifically you won't do. If you're a roofer that does not put on gutters, that's important. And it's important for your avatar to know that, hey, we've got a connection to a gutter company that we will let them know that they need to come put the gutters on, but we don't do gutters. We are great at roofs, but that's where we stop. There's some that do roofs, gutters, and siding. Okay, that's great. There's some that do roofs, gutters, siding, windows, and everything else. That gets really confusing with an avatar, because it's like, well, what don't you do? And we do everything. We're one-stop shop. That makes me really nervous, right? Because a lot of times that tells me, well, you're either not great at all of them, or you're subcontracting a lot of this out. And who do I go to, right? Where does the buck stop? I don't want 5 different crews coming to my house unless I'm prepared for that. So, which is what general contractors do. Maybe as a general contractor, they can be good at that, but they recognize what they're good at. And that is, chasing all these butterflies and making sure all the moths stay together, and they can handle that, right? But what's the operational function of your business? What is it you specifically do? What is it that you don't do? That's important delineation. Now, the last piece is the accounting function. The accounting function is, again, have you grown fond of being paid? Sure, I'll bet you have. That's an accounting function. That's accounts receivable. I'll bet your vendors have also grown fond of being paid. That's accounts payable. Both functions are incredibly important, but you also need to be able to track where you're at. You also need to be able to track, how are you healthy? Do you have a positive net worth? Did you make money last month, and are you projected to make money this month? That's all an accounting function. Now, here's the thing. So again, you got lead gen. This is all part of your process. It's all part of infrastructure and process, right? That's the system part. So again, you've got lead generation, you've got sales, you've got operations, and you've got accounting. So with those 4 functions, now, if you're going to get stuck somewhere, pay attention. If you're going to get stuck, you're going to get stuck in the operational function, almost always. Because people get stuck because that's the thing that they do, especially if you're an entrepreneur. So you're either going to, here's the thing. You're either going to get stuck in your operation, or you're going to get stuck in someone else's operation. Either way, both of those things are a job. So if you get stuck in someone else's operation, you have a job. If you get stuck in your own operation, not only do you have a job, but you're working for a miserable boss. That would be you. Because you're never going to be able to take time off. You're never going to allow yourself to have sick time. You're never going to allow yourself to be without your phone. So this is why I'm talking about this stuff, because it's really, really critical, because you don't want to create a prison for yourself. The whole point of you getting into business is to create liberation. If you're going to ignore something, okay, and this is where we're going to end. If you're going to ignore something, you almost always will ignore the accounting function. And ask me how I know. Well, I must be doing well because I have more money in my bank this month than last month. Ask me how I know. I have an accounting degree, and yet I was ignoring the accounting of my own businesses. As hard as that is for me to admit, I was wrong on that. So I think this was hopefully helpful for those of you who are out there that are either running your own businesses, wanting to run your own businesses, wanting to get into rental properties, or maybe you have some rental properties now and you'd love for them to run a little bit smoother, or maybe you're looking to scale up. The VIP method and the 4 critical functions of any business, that is all a framework that you can build all of that stuff out on. Okay, hope you found that helpful. So if you would like to reach out and you want to have a discussion about this, I'm happy to. You can drop me an email at mark@landlordcoach.com, or right there on the scroller ticker thing, you can go to landlordcoach.com/connect. And that is all I have for today, folks. I am going to get back to I'm recording some video stuff today, doing some marketing stuff today. It's a beautiful day outside, so I think my bride and I are going to go record some video outside. But before we do that, I'm going to sign off and say, please be sure to place a value on your free time, because if you don't, someone else will. But most important, there is no amount of money that will make time irrelevant. Have an awesome day. I'll see you guys next time.